Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule2R Review. Welcome back to the channel. Today let's discuss the final reveal of the 20 games that are officially coming to the PlayStation Classic, and if they're as bad as some people think they are. So of course, I first want to do my obligatory reminder that I am doing the Dark Souls Remastered for Nintendo Switch giveaway. I do have this extra copy here. And once we hit 10,500 subscribers on the channel, which is only about 180 or so away, I'll do the giveaway. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Share the channel for anyone else who you think might be interested in it so we can kind of boost up those subscriptions and hit that mark. And then make sure you are also following me on Twitter. That is a mandatory requirement for me to be able to pick a winner and also discuss with you in private how I'm going to get the game to you and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's get to 10,500. Follow me on Twitter and you might win the game. And with that out of the way, let's discuss the fun stuff, which are all of the games coming to the PlayStation Classic. Of course, when this was first revealed like 2 months ago, they only gave us 5 initial games confirmed for the console, but they told us that there are 20, so 15 more were still a mystery. And considering the fact that the thing launches, at least in the West, on December 3rd, like in a month and a half, I don't know if that's like worldwide or if it's just in the West, but regardless, the launch is essentially a few weeks away. And to only have, 25% of the games confirmed was a little bit strange, and everyone was very curious what was going to happen. The controller for the system obviously was a little bit of an indicator on what games maybe would or would not be included, yada, yada, yada. And then, of course, this morning, Sony did finally confirm what the remaining 15 games are. So let's quickly go over the list of all 20 games that are going to be on the PlayStation Classic. They are officially Battle Arena Toshinden Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy VII, Grand Theft Auto, Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid, Mr. Driller, Oddworld, Persona, Rayman, Resident Evil, the Director's Cut version, Ridge Racer Type 4, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3, Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal, and Wild Arms. So there you go. Those are the 20 games that are going to be on the PlayStation Classic. Now, the reaction is kind of a little bit what I wanted to talk about on top of just the actual inclusion of the games. I'll tell you right now, first off, I mean, hey, I'm excited. I think that this is a pretty darn good list of games. Obviously, when we only had those first 5 confirmed, and then when they also confirmed the original PlayStation 1 controllers, not the DualShocks that first brought analog sticks to the PlayStation, like I said in the beginning here, it kind of let us know it might hinder some of the games we might expect or hope to see come to the PlayStation Classic, because some of the later games, some of the best games on the PlayStation 1, required that analog stick and the DualShock controller. So it was a very curious choice not to include the DualShocks. I discussed on my video about this why I don't really mind that they're the original controllers, because to me, it represents the PlayStation 1 in its original launch form, and same with that same library of games. As the PlayStation was first introduced and given to the world, to us the gamers, and I was 15 or 16 when the PlayStation 1 launched, that was the way we were gaming on the PlayStation at that time. So I thought it was cool for the novelty of it. And also, my guess is that it would have been so expensive to include two analog stick DualShock controllers with this thing that it might have increased the price of it by anywhere from, I don't know, 20 to 50 bucks maybe a piece. And so they probably wanted to keep the price below $100 at $99.99. And so I'm really pumped for this list of games, you guys. I think it's probably the best they could have done without DualShock compatible games. I mean, for myself, Battle Arena Toshinden, I'm very excited for. I loved that game as a kid. I know, here's the thing. These games are not going to have aged well, you guys. This era of early 3D polygon graphic gameplay is not great, and it's not going to be that great. It's just not going to be. Like, we're going to be playing it for the nostalgia and the fun of it for the most part. The 2D games and the racing games are probably going to be the best feeling and playing games, let's just admit it. But that being said, I'm still excited for these games. Battle Arena Toshinden and Cool Borders and Destruction Derby, very excited for those. Intelligent Cube is a great game. That is one of the rarest games to find in physical form on the PlayStation 1. It's probably at several $100s is my guess. Jumping Flash was okay. Obviously, Metal Gear Solid. I love the original Oddworld. Very excited for that. Rayman, one of my favorite all-time games, the original Rayman, and the PlayStation 1 version is the best because it had the best music and sound effects quality. I still own it on the Atari Jaguar, and while it looked great on the Jaguar, it does not sound good, unfortunately. they really didn't tap into the sound ability of that console. And then, of course, Resident Evil Director's Cut. Come on, Resident Evil superfan, can't wait for that. I'm really excited for Siphon Filter and Rainbow Six as well. I really never played those games, and I think I might give them a shot when this thing launches. So that's just some of the games. Like I said, there's a couple of great RPGs and stuff, and so at the end of the day, I think it's a good, solid list for what it is. Part of the reason we buy these things, let's be real, it is the novelty, it is the collectability, it's the nostalgia. I don't think a lot of us were planning on getting this, just like with the Nintendo Classic consoles, and sitting down for hours on end to play through all of these really old games that are hard to play nowadays. They're cool to pop in for fun, to relive some memories, and I'm sure that maybe some people, maybe some of you guys do that and you go through all of these games, but I mean, I'm really not doing that. On my Super Nintendo Classic, like, I've played a little bit of A Link to the Past and Super Metroid and games that I know and I've beaten many times, and it's like, I'm not really anxious to sit down and go through these games forever. There's modern games I'm spending my game time with, so I think that for most people, that's going to be the case, so I don't know that we need to have every single game that we ever wanted on these classic machines. Now that's what brings me to people's reactions to this, because that's where the conversation's kind of unique. For the most part, what I've seen this morning is people just not too happy about this. People upset about the list. Everyone had their own specific, perfect, you know, image of every single game. They're like, I want the 20 games I want, and I expect it, and that I loved as a kid. And only those 20 games will make me satisfied. And so a lot of people are just straight up pissed at the choice of games. And I mean, there's a small reason to understand that, because, you know, everyone has different opinions. Here's the thing. There could be 100 people out there who all are mad about this, and every one of those people, out of 100 people, there's going to be 100 different lists of 20 games that would make 100 different people happy. The point being, you can't make something that's going to please everybody. It's a collection for a reason, so that everyone can pick and choose, oh, these 7 games are the one that makes me happy. The other ones I don't really care too much about. Like me, I just named the 6 or 7, 10, whatever games that I'm interested in. The other ones I don't really care too much about, but I'm not mad that the other 10 games aren't ones that I wanted. Like, I'm looking at the games I am excited for, and I'm happy with those. If you're somebody who's not happy with any of them, well then that can't be helped, and maybe this just isn't the product for you, and that's okay. Just don't buy it. You're not wrong for feeling that way, but I think it's unfortunate if people want to go out of their way to just complain and get mad and blame Sony and yell at Sony and just, oh my god, you ruined this thing, I hate you now, blah blah blah. It's like, dude, just, it is what it is. It's either something you like or something you don't. I think there are also 2 big reasons that so many people are disappointed by this, and that's what I wanted to bring up. One is, as I've already discussed, we know that the controllers were going to limit some of the games we were going to see. The biggest ones people are complaining about are none of the Crash games, none of the Spyro games, a couple people talking about Croc, but no one really cares that much about Croc. It's really Spyro and Crash. I mean, that's the crux of most people's arguments, to be fair. There are other games as well, but the majority of complaints include those games. And I get it. I mean, I would even have preferred to see those games on this console. Don't get me wrong, guys. I wish that they were there. And I do believe Crash could be played without the analog stick, if I remember right. So, I don't know. Those games not being included are why people are angry, but I still think that a lot of the games that are missing are because there's no analog stick, there are no dual shocks. When it comes to Spyro and Crash, I have to imagine they're not included because of the remaster of the trilogies that already exist. Crash Remaster already exists, Spyro Remaster is coming out soon, or maybe it already came out, I don't even know. I'm not following it, it's not something I'm super excited about, so forgive me if I'm wrong there. I think it got delayed to early 2019 if I'm not mistaken, so either way, you know, not having Crash and Spyro is making people mad, and it just comes down to the controller, you guys. That's part of why we're seeing this issue. The other reason is something I don't think people are talking about or people are considering, and I firmly believe this. I think it's because when we think of a classic console, we think of Nintendo's consoles and Nintendo's libraries that they've already given us, the NES and the Super NES. And I think that people weren't ready for the reality of the fact that PlayStation's classic games aren't that classic. Let's be real. Like, the best that the early PlayStation era had to offer, with the exception of RPGs, the best that it had to offer aren't that memorable. They're not that legendary. They're not that good. And I think that people automatically go into this expecting the incredible highs of hearing classic games like the best in the Zelda games and the Mario games and the Metroid games. You know, when people think of Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past and The Legend of Zelda and Metroid and Super Mario World and Mario Brothers 3 and all of these things, these games, Nintendo's classic games and franchises are legendary. They are supreme godlike status, and for a reason, and so we get excited about putting all of those games together on a collection. But you get to that mid-90s 32-bit PlayStation era, it's a great console with games I love, but you get to that era, you kind of realize they're just not the same tier. And so everyone wanted to have that same like wow factor when we got the NES and Super NES Classic, and then you just realize, oh, wait a minute, they're not as legendary. That era of games and Sony's first consoles outing didn't have the same impact. These aren't games that have lasted the test of time for the most part. Yes, there's Metal Gear. Yes, there's Final Fantasy. Yes, there's Tekken. I get it. Absolutely, some of those are true. They are kind of legendary game franchises, but they're just not on par with Nintendo's. And that's not even me as a Nintendo fanboy saying that. I think it's mostly an objectionable fact. Like, they're not quite the same. And so because I think most people expected that feeling and that wow factor, and then they didn't get it because that's not quite what the early PlayStation 1 era has to offer, people are disappointed without maybe realizing that they might have had maybe the wrong kind of expectations in their head. So it's kind of just my opinion and my theory, but I feel pretty good about it. And so that's why myself, when I look at this list and I think of what they're doing here, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm very happy for the most part with this list. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that this thing, you guys, it's going to be successful anyway. People can be mad, they can complain, they could be upset about not having this XYZ game or whatever. And, you know, I get it. It sucks to be disappointed by something like this. Like, I do understand. But at the end of the day, this thing is still going to be exciting. People are still going to buy it. I'm going to buy it, you know, at $100. I'm happy to buy it. This thing makes me very excited. And so it's just going to probably continue to show the success of this classic, nostalgic, retro sort of thing that's happening with these consoles. Like, they ride nostalgia. They're not so much about the experience, they're about nostalgia, and they're about the gimmicky kind of nature of it all, you know? We want these as collectibles for the most part, although I'm excited to game on. I mean, I game on my Super NES Classic every once in a while. I'm going to do the same with the PlayStation. I hope we get that 64 Classic. You know I'm going to get that, man, because I love the 64. So, I don't know. I think that's what it is. It's still going to sell well and be successful, and Sony's going to feel like they made a smart decision making it. So, anywho, those are my thoughts and feelings. What do you guys think about this? Are you excited for the console? Are you not? Do you think it was a good choice? Do you think it was a bad choice? What do you think about these list of games? Are you really pissed and angry about them? Or are you kind of like me and you're like, it is what it is. Just look at the games you're excited for and just kind of look at it that way. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Talk about it below. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.